Hello, welcome to We Are Salt and Light YouTube live event. My name is Nicole Germain. I'm with the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops in the Department of Justice, Peace, and Human Development. Our topic today is racial justice. In an address to a delegation from the Simon Wiesenthal Center in October 2013, Pope Francis said, "The problem of intolerance must be confronted in all its forms. Whenever any minority is persecuted and marginalized because of its religious convictions or ethnic identity, the well-being of society as a whole is endangered and each one of us must feel affected." Also, in 1979, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops passed a letter on racism called "Racism a Sin" that divides the human family, blots out the image of God among specific members of that family, and violate the fundamental human dignity of those called to be children of the same Father. We are all called to learn about the reality of racism by listening to other stories, studying the issues, and then working to make peace and racial justice present in our communities. To help us reflect on this call, I am pleased to introduce our three panelists who will help share inspiring examples of how Catholic faith communities are reaching out together to celebrate diversity and seek racial justice. First, we'll hear from Deacon Alan Stevens, Pastoral Associate at St. Peter Claver's Parish in New Orleans, Louisiana, which is a member of the Micah Project, a community organization that receives funding from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development. Then we'll hear from Sister Mary Jean Shraver, Pastoral Facilitator for St. Francis Cabrini Parish in Springfield, Illinois, who is the initiator of an exciting training for their parishioners to identify and prevent racism and the systemic ways it keeps people poor. And finally, we'll hear from Ray Kelly, parishioner at St. Peter Claver's in Baltimore, Maryland, and director of No Boundaries Coalition, which also receives funding from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development. Participants, as you hear what they share, feel free to chat in your questions. We'll have time at the end for some of those. And panelists, just a reminder to mute your mic. So Deacon Allen, let's start with you.
Good afternoon. St. Peter Claver Parish has been ministering for over 95 years here in New Orleans, and one of the oldest Black communities in the United States, known as Treme. Our church has always had a strong emphasis on social justice. Work with the Micah Project has always been involved in community organizing with many various denominations here in New Orleans. Micah is one of many affiliates under the PICO National Network. PICO stands for People Improving Community Through Organizing. 20 states, 150 cities, over 1,000-member congregation. We're one of the largest organizing efforts in the United States, as well as in Rwanda, South America, and Haiti. In June of 2015, I, along with 20 other PICO representatives and several Vatican officials in Rome to discuss the Pope's visit here in the United States. Members from our church and 3 other Catholic churches sent representatives to Philadelphia to meet, to see, to dialogue, to encounter people from around the world. It was an amazing meeting with Pope Francis coming to Philadelphia to discuss the meeting of the family. We also gave presentations to 3 diocesan departments, including the Archbishop, the auxiliary bishops here, the Year of Encounter team, as we identified ourselves. These presentations, we collaborated of racial harmony, focusing on race-related discussions around the dialogue. We are still in dialogue with the department. Several leaders from our church participated in 6 two-hour sessions outlining the encounter process that was identified with Pope Francis' book, The Joy of the Gospel. Parish, and since then, that have come on board with us. So this process with 70 members from our church and our result was to experience an encounter in the community. St. Francis of Assisi said, preaching the gospel at all times, and only if you must use words. So we had to get out there and encounter the people of God, not preaching to them, but addressing the needs. We visited Orleans Parish Prison, as well as Angola Correctional Facility, had open discussion with inmates. We visited a university where English was a second language class to understand some of the undocumented people's struggle with immigration. Went with a group called Stand with Dignity, organizing around the fight for $15 an hour as a living wage. And several legislative days in the Capitol, in Baton Rouge, to organize around something called Ban the Box, to take off the applications, that checkoff box which said that I've committed a felony. We need to give them a fighting integrated back in our community. We also organized and participated in the Archdiocese of New Orleans throughout St. Peter Claver neighborhood here in Treme. Experience, encountering people along the way, singing songs, reading scripture. That Pope Francis gave us an entity was washing the feet of those who were we considered less than, those who are formerly incarcerated, elderly, senior citizens, homeless people. We intentionally did this in front of City Hall, hoping that our public officials could model the same gesture. Evangelization efforts, going door to door in our community, knocking on doors, and what our Archbishop title as our parishioners coming to our, these are the people in our community that we are responsible. There's been open dialogue with even another diocese, a home material diocese, to discuss the impact of the way of the gospel. Thank you.
Nicole, you're on mute.
Thank you, Deacon, for sharing that story, those stories, those examples of how folks are engaging within their communities. Sister Mary Jean, can we start with you next?
I am a Dominican sister of Springfield, Illinois. And for at least the past 20 years, I would say our congregation has consciously and intentionally been addressing the question, the issue of racism. 11 years ago, we engaged the services of Crossroads anti-racism organizing and training. This is an organization that helps groups and help our congregation, has helped our congregation and our sponsored institutions to address systemic racism in ourselves, in our own institution. We formed a team of approximately 50% white people, including some sisters, and 50% persons of color with whom we've been in relationship. And this team is what has helped us for the past 11 years to do the demanding work of dismantling racism. We have come to believe that racism is a systemic problem that requires systemic solutions. We know that even in the last 11 years, we've barely scratched the surface, but we're committed for the long haul to doing this work. Happily, these efforts have spread to other organizations in Springfield and beyond. We've helped to form a new organization that's called Springfield Coalition on Dismantling Racism. And that organization has worked with city government and police, with the Department of Children and Family Services, with the public school district, medical institutions, and the church community, both ecumenical and interfaith, including the 2 Catholic parishes I've been responsible for, St. Catherine Drexel and St. Francis Cabrini. We have also joined a local community organizing group, Faith Coalition for the Common Good, which is an affiliate of Gamaliel of Illinois, and they have helped us to form the skills needed to do this work. Gradually, we have come to see that we are forming a network of organizations, with each organization working on its own institution to dismantle racism, and together forming a critical mass of organizations and people who are willing to address the issue of racism. So again, racism is a systemic problem, and we're committed to addressing it in systemic ways.
Thank you, Sister, for that. And then we're going to move now to Ray Kelly from Baltimore, Maryland.
So good afternoon. So I'm Ray Kelly, and I'm from St. Peter Claver Church in Baltimore, Maryland, which is the first church in America, in the world maybe, dedicated to St. Peter Claver. So I've been involved in every ministry in the church. I've started out as a CYO coach in 1995, but for the past 4 years, I've chaired the safety committee at an organization called the No Boundaries Coalition, and whose stated mission is to break down the boundaries of race, class, religion, neighborhood, and things of that nature in Central West Baltimore, which encompasses affluent neighborhoods like Bolton Hill, as well as low-income neighborhoods like Sandtown, Winchester, where St. Peter Claver is located. The prominent theme in a listening campaign we conducted immediately after the riots was that our residents didn't feel heard or felt forgotten. With the history of low voter turnout in our Black communities, we recognized that was the paradigm we would address. We simultaneously created the West Baltimore Community Commission on Police Misconduct to document instances of police abuses and brutality in our communities. And we also launched our Get Out the Vote effort, Double Up 21217. And in coordination with that, the Archdiocese was actually starting what they called their racial justice circles. And it's just an open conversation about racism, white privilege, and systemic oppression. And these parishes that actually joined in that racial circle conversation have become some of our biggest volunteers and strongest partners in our community organizing efforts. And all that is to say that through our faith and our collaboration, the Commission published a report based on resident testimony that was recognized by the DOJ and even referenced in the recent report that the DOJ released in Baltimore City about the police misconduct and the racist structure of our police system. Our Get Out the Vote effort recorded the highest voter turnout in history at our Sandtown post at Gilmore Elementary School. And the collaborative of these relationships hosted Pax Christi's Public Witness this year, where St. Peter Claver partnered with No Boundaries and other community organizations, residents of 21217, the Racial Justice Circle of Baltimore, Bolton Hill Social Action Team, and Pax Christi USA. And they created a transformational and a sustainable change in our community. We had over 130 volunteers come out on this one Saturday, where the heat index actually reached 116 degrees that day. And there was like just a transformation in the community. We cleaned up vacant lots, we painted, boarded up houses, we did grass, we had over 300 bags of trash and a dumpster load of trees. And we do these type of things because the byproduct of all these efforts is the reintroduction of hope in a community that's given it up long ago, and just ignite the power within them, and that is the power of our faith in God. Thank you.
Thank you to all three of you for your inspiring stories. We wanted to ask a couple of questions of you all. Deacon Allen, I'll start with you. What impact do you hope the parish of St. Peter Claver will have on the broader community there in New Orleans? Deacon? We seem to be having some. Deacon Allen, can you hear me? Okay, then I'll move to Sister Mary Jean. How do you gauge the success of your parish anti-racism training and leadership development efforts? How are you gauging those, the success of that?
Well, compared to these other two stories, we've just been at this a very short amount of time, but I do think that there are some signs that we can look at. In the first parish that I was involved in for 9 years, St. Catherine Drexel, the diversity was already there. We had a variety of African Americans, Latinos from 12 different Latin American countries, Filipinos, and European Americans. And we made an intentional effort to honor those different cultures, to begin our work of working on racism in this way by honoring those cultures, by providing opportunities that would say that we respect and honor those cultures, like having a mass in Spanish or having music in the African American tradition. That's where we began. But then we realized that we did not want to have groups be isolated from one another, just comfortable in the space that was their own culture, but to bring the group together. And so we were working together to share cultures, to become one community, not in competition with others. And so we developed a variety, quite a wide variety of activities that would bring us together to work on something for the parish as one, to become one community. Things like the Lenten fish fries, where everyone worked, or the fiesta, where people came together and helped the group that was taking the lead, but that we were working together. At the parish I'm in now, which I've only been in for a little over a year, St. Francis Cabrini, the community is all white, but they have a heart for justice, and they really want to learn. And so in order for them to have any experience, we either had to bring people of color in, or we had to go out and engage people of color beyond our comfort circle. And we've done that. And our Faith Coalition for the Common Good hosted a series called Sacred Conversations on Race. And 4 churches came together for those conversations. 2 Baptist churches, Black Baptist churches, and 1 Unitarian Universalist church, which had a mixture of people of color and white, but mostly white people, and then our parish that was all white. We came together for these conversations, and at the end, we were asked to choose an action that we wanted to do to keep this effort going. And our parish decided that we weren't ready to, it wasn't that we weren't ready, but that it wasn't the best thing for us to only go out and march. We do that sometimes, we gather with other groups, but that we wanted to have a conscious effort to continue to build relationships with people of color. And so we created a monthly potluck and invited our conversation partners to be part of that monthly event, to share a meal with us, and then at each time we met, to continue with facilitated study and dialogue and the telling of stories about racism. The way I can measure the success of that is that attendance has grown. We've had 4 months now that we've been doing this, and the attendance has grown as members who have been part of the group invite other members. And we have new participants, some Black, some white, some Filipino, whatever, all are welcome. And the people have even gotten used to gathering on their own with a group or with a person, having coffee together or inviting people to dinner in their homes or whatever it is, just for the sake of building those relationships. And I believe in that time, our conversations have gone deeper, and the people themselves are asking for deeper training. And so we have been able to provide the wherewithal for people to participate in the Crossroads 2.5-day training, and used grants to be able to help people pay for that. And now we're in the process of preparing to do a neighborhood outreach. So there's been a variety of ways that we've seen some growth and some change.
That is wonderful, wonderful to hear. And it's all really about building those relationships between people that's going to help to make changes within our communities. So thank you for that inspiring story. So for Ray Kelly, I have a question for you, since we're still having some technical difficulty with Deacon Allen. Ray, you spoke about your parish being a sacred space for conversation and for bringing people together to address neighborhood issues. Why are the parishes called to be this kind of space for conversation, to encounter and for action?
So as I spoke earlier, St. Peter Claver was actually the first Black Catholic church in West Baltimore. So we've always kind of stood as a refuge in this every fight for equality, so to speak. This is the first Catholic parish built for and by free Black people in 1888. So that was like immediately following emancipation. And this space, so to speak, Pennsylvania Avenue and West Baltimore, has always been the hub for Black entertainment, and in our heydays of the 50s and 60s, all of the stars in the entertainment world and Black leadership would actually come to Pennsylvania Avenue. So during the Civil Rights Movement, the church basement was actually a known meeting place for these types of individuals, where it was always, historically, the church is a refuge, so to speak, and still to the day it's kind of considered the safe space for conversation. And we've always been open to kind of creating the space to have these conversations. The first conversations with the racial justice circle were held here, and where we are, within 3 or 4 blocks, you can go from the projects to $1 million brownstones here, where our central location has always served as a place where people feel safe speaking honestly amongst other people.
Thank you again, Ray. What recommendations would you make to other parishes that are starting or want to start conversation around race?
So I would say commit to the conversation. You can't really shy off of that actual conversation because a group doesn't really feel receptive to it. Once you create the space to have a conversation about race, you kind of have to commit to having that conversation. It's not really a lot of room, so to speak, for hurt feelings, because the hurt feelings sadly usually translate into white privilege, where it seems that when you're having these conversations that sometimes you're addressing an individual, when in all actuality we're addressing a culture. So I think the most important thing is to make sure that the people that are involved in the conversation are actually committed to resolving issues and are not really blind to what is actually happening in our communities.
Thank you again, Ray. Deacon Allen, are you back with us? I'm sorry, we can't.
Yes, I'm back. I lost internet
Wonderful.
connection.
Wonderful. We noticed that you were having some technical difficulties there, so thank you for reconnecting with us. Can you just tell us a little bit about what impact do you hope the parish of St. Peter Claver will have on the broader community?
It's not that we hope, what impact are we having? There's no doubt in my mind that we have had an impact because of the work that we've done with social justice. And I think in terms of going to Baton Rouge with a number of individuals to get that box off of application, we were successful. Now, when I think in terms of reaching out, and we have a food pantry, we feed people during the week. We feed over 400 families in the course of a month. That number is growing. It hasn't gone down. Nutritional meals, not just perishable items that you may think in terms of, but a substantial meal to provide for the families. We're reaching out to them. We're helping them with utility bills. We're paying tuition. And this is ongoing. It's only recent that we decided that we need to become a SNAP application site to help people get food stamps, to help them with Medicaid, Medicare, to also provide jobs for those. They come to us and they're saying, I'm down on my luck. Unfortunately, I don't have a job. I'm not working. I have no income. With 5 agencies throughout the city of New Orleans that not only provide jobs, but will train them in getting a job, resumes, dress for success. We are having an impact. Evangelization process we did, where we begin to knock on doors, introducing ourselves to members in the community. A survey of how many people responded. That evangelization process, a number said, I need to find out more about the Catholic Church, or I'd like to find out about how you apply to get food or food stamps. We also asked them, are you a registered voter? Vote in the upcoming election. Do you need to register to vote? Come to our doors and says, yes, I moved into the neighborhood, I need to register. So there's no doubt in my mind, we are having an impact in the community.
Thank you. Thank you to all three of you for being with us today. We really appreciate that. And for the last few minutes that we have together, I want to share a few resources to help all of our participants to pray, reach out, learn, and act together as communities of salt and light. Together, let's visit the USCCB racism page. The page, here we go. The page includes a recent video interview with Archbishop Gregory from the Archdiocese of Atlanta and Bishop Farb from the Diocese of Uma-Thibodeau on the Day of Prayer for Peace in Our Communities. You'll find the prayer card for peace in our communities available for download in English and Spanish. We hope you'll continue to participate in the USCCB President's Call to promote peace and to learn more about what the Bishop Special Task Force the Bishop's Special Task Force to promote peace and unity. The site also includes ideas of how to promote peace and work together for racial justice. Next, we're going to move to our visit the wearesaltandlight.org. This is a new website of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, Department of Justice, Peace, and Human Development. We'll get there in 1 second. Once you get there, you'll see that it isn't on the main USCCB site. Here at wearesaltandlight.org, we can see Reach Out Together as one of the site's main 4 sections. The Diversity and Racial Justice subpage has numerous resources to help Catholics seek racial justice in their communities. These resources draw not only from the U.S. Bishops' Conference, but also from many of our trusted collaborators. You can see success stories like the ones you just heard on this YouTube live event of communities around the country who are working to or reaching out together. And you can use the site assessment tools to evaluate as a team how well your community is doing at reaching out together, inviting diverse leaders, and in other areas of communities of Salt and Light. Again, thank you to our panelists and thank you participants. I hope this YouTube Live has been helpful to everyone in reflecting on how we can reach out together so we can work together to seek peace and unity in our communities that Pope Francis invited us to.